Good evening, everyone. I am Nushka Kataria, and I have with me Vansh Chawda from the Career Development Center. And we're thrilled to welcome you all to the first episode of Alumni Masterclass Series. MIT World Peace University, Alumni Relations team, and the Career Development Center have been instrumental in making this series take place. This podcast aims to bridge the gap between our esteemed alumni and the current students, fostering learning, inspiration, and connection.
Today, we're privileged to welcome Mr. Pratik Agrawal, a distinguished alumnus of MIT-WPU CSE batch of 2003. While pursuing his master's in Management of Information Systems at Mays Business School, Texas A&M University, where he earned merit scholarships and served as a teaching assistant. Mr. Pratik started his professional journey as an analyst at National Instruments. Over the years, he has held leadership positions as director at Propeldi, the Attitude Designer, and Bigo Bikes. A visionary entrepreneur and investor in GenAI, EdTech, and FinTech. Mr. Pratik is also recognized as one of the top 20 data science academicians. Innovating the future of technology makes him an inspiration to aspiring professionals.
So, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We're excited to hear about your journey and gain insights from your experiences.
Thank you, Nishka, Vansh, and Mr. Gunale for inviting me for back to my alma mater. It's been a very, very long time since I addressed anybody from MIT. I think after 20 years, I get this opportunity. So glad to be part of the community, guys. And I would try to do my best to contribute back to the college that I owe so much in my professional journey. So we'll try and keep the discussion very, very informal and very open to questions and answers, so that you can actually, so that we all can utilize this time as per your need. Okay. I have already received certain set of questions from Nishka. Thanks a lot, Nishka, and thank you for sending me in advance. So I have some talking points on those questions as well. But what I realized is that from the questions, as well as because I do a lot of talking on AI a lot. I'm actually a keynote speaker in several AI conferences, as well as we have several clients where we go and implement AI solutions and coach as well people there. So I thought there are some few things that everybody is interested in the AI world, and I wanted to keep the discussion very hands-on, very practical, so that I don't bore you with a lot of theory. A lot of theory is available on ChatGPT, so you can always refer to the theory there. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take this opportunity to demo of two types of AI solutions. So two types of artificial intelligence use cases. One would be of traditional artificial intelligence use cases, machine learning model use cases, and so forth. Second use case would be generative AI, a Gen AI use case, and both these use cases have been monetized excessively. One of my startups in Gen AI is monetizing the Gen AI capabilities for legal and CACS and enterprise HR and admin operations. And the other is a very, very classic traditional AI model that's been monetized by several companies. Um, if anybody of you would like to be connected with me, I'll be more than happy to be connected. I will give you my LinkedIn ID, and feel free to connect. And also, I realize that a lot of young minds are there. So you may want to explore certain AI tools after the sessions as well. So what I've done is that I've created a list of some free AI tools which anybody can explore, can get hands dirty with, and explore the capability of AI, even if you have no coding or no mathematics background. So that is also something that I have kind of taken the liberty to do it. Alrighty, so let's do a demo, okay, quickly. Traditional AI demo. That is the first thing that we'll do, traditional AI demo. And let me open my screen. Okay, I hope you all can see. Now, if you notice, I have built a very small, very, very small visual classification, image classification model using something called as a teachable machine. I'm not sure if any of you have had an opportunity to dirty your hands with this kind of a model. It is based on Google AutoML model, which is designed for non-coders and non-mathematicians to implement machine learning models or traditional AI models. So if you notice here, what this visual classification model is doing is it is trying to judge whether I am wearing a helmet or not. So if you notice here, it is showing right now that I am not wearing any helmet. So without helmet is 100%, which is fairly accurate because of course I'm not wearing a helmet. But let me pull up an image of a person wearing a safety helmet, and let's see whether it can identify whether that person is wearing helmet or not. Give me one moment. So let's see if I'm going to show this of an image on my phone, which basically has a person wearing a helmet, right? And specifically a safety helmet and all that, right? Randomly, I just picked up an image just to showcase the fact that it is trained on identifying whether a person is wearing helmet or not, right? It's a very, very simple traditional machine learning model. I will also explain you how we have created this, but this is a extremely simple, anybody can try kind of a machine learning model. How can you do that is, you go to Google and look for something called as a teachable machine by Google. And when you go there, you just need a Gmail account, which I'm assuming everybody has it. And you just click on get started and you click on, so there are three different types of classification models that right now this platform supports. One is image classification, audio, and post classification. So let's say image classification, standard image model is fine. And here you define the, let me share my image now. Here, here, what you do is, here you define the image with people wearing helmets, and maybe here the class 2 would be the image of the people who are not wearing helmet, right? And that's what we will just quickly do it. So first, let me say that these are all the people who are wearing helmet, and I upload that set of images. And here, let me upload the set of images of the folks who are not wearing. Now, where did we acquire these images? So I just went to Google and I looked for some images. The more images you have, the better the model will be. And let me label this as with helmet. Now we got two set of classes here, okay? And now what we are doing is we're training the machine learning model, right? It's like training you may say it's like training a baby that, hey, this is safe, this is not safe, or this is a car, this is a orange, right? So just like how you train a baby with some samples, some examples, here we're training the machine learning model with some examples here. And then the moment I click, so this was data acquisition, and then the moment we labeled the data. So that is called as data labeling. And now we are training the model. And once it is trained the model, now it is asking me to evaluate the model. And once it evaluates the model, let's see. Okay. Hmm. So now, if you notice, what it is asking us to do is, it is asking us to evaluate. So are we happy with this? If we are not happy with this, we can still retrain the model. So I would say, looks like it is doing a decent enough job. Let me also try. So it looks like it is doing a decent enough job of identifying whether I'm wearing helmets or not. Now here you could have multiple classes, more than just two classes as well. You could have 100 classes if you want. 100 classes meaning 100 categories of images if you wanted, right? Now, if you want to see, let's say some of you must be engineers and you may want to see some, now here, if you want to see some bit of if you want to have some bit of understanding as to what happened here, right? I mean, even without going too much into details of neural network and whatnot, this epoch essentially means the number of times every sample of image that we gave was used to train the machine learning model. So it says 50, that means every sample of image was used 50 times to train the machine learning model. And the batch sizes of 16, let's say if I included 21 images, so every batch would then, I mean, 21 would be divided to 16 batches and would then be trained 50 times, okay? The more you train it, the better the model's output will be, or the prediction power will be here, right? Learning rate is Do you want to train the model very quickly? Just like, if you do not have time and there was a baby that you are training, and you want to you want to say that, remember this quickly. I do not have time to train you a lot, but just remember that this is safe, this is not safe, right? And you do it in 2 seconds, and then you expect that baby to remember. Maybe the baby is mature enough, maybe the baby will remember all of that, or the baby may not remember all of it. The learning rate, the slower the learning rate is, the better the prediction power could be, but then it requires more computational power and more money. But here, let it be 0.001. It's an index, which is pretty fast. Let that be that. And then this under the hood thing tells you how accurate the model prediction is. I don't want to go into the details of it, but I've recorded a few videos around it, and I'm sure ChatGPT can easily tell you as well how accurate the model is, and the loss and everything. But let's keep that discussion for some other later time. So now, if I'm ready, if I'm okay with this prediction, if I'm happy with this prediction power, I would say, all right, just explore the model, or export the model, and then upload it on cloud. And then, if you know a little bit of Python or JavaScript or Node.js, you can utilize this link that it is creating, the cloud link, and you can convert that into a user interface, and then sell it if you want, right? Or go to a factory. Pune has a lot of manufacturing plants around your college. You can actually take this as an app and showcase it to any of your potential future employer, and say that, what, I've created a machine learning classification model, which can predict whether your people are wearing helmets or not wearing helmets when they enter into the premises of the plant, or when they are actually doing some production work, whether they're doing it or not. That's it. And this is the model link, and they give you the code as well. Machine, a Python code, a JavaScript code. You can utilize that and build a small app. And if you know a little bit of front end programming, or if you have some friends who know front end programming, you can build an app or build a web app around it as well. So it is as easy as that, and that's it. And there we go. And I would put that into the chat window as well. Anybody can actually uh, I'm not sure if people can see the chat or not, but anyway, the idea is very, very simple, that in today's time, even if you do not have a hardcore programming background, if you do have a little bit of programming background, it always helps, guys. There is no doubt about it. But if you do not, you can still try your hand with artificial intelligence models and create some workable solution. And that is what we are doing at Ivy Pro School, one of my companies. We actually work with large manufacturing companies in India as well as outside. We definitely coach their internal people on how to use such AI tools and how to build AI application using certain tools which are available on cloud, and solve their internal problems. One of the clients, one of the very, very large steel manufacturing clients, what we have done there, done for them using something very similar to this, is that, so they have a boiler monitoring room, where they always have 24/7 human-based surveillance, and they keep looking at some of the parameters of the boiler. And just so they do not sleep off, or they're not just watching Instagram on their phone. So we have created a computer vision model using the similar service by Google, and we've given them this model which is integrated with their CCTV camera, and continuously monitors whether their people are actually awake and concentrating on the screen instead of just watching on mobile phone or sleeping off. So many such applications we have created for many of our clients, as well as when we coach people as well. So our AI and machine learning learners have also created several such small apps using traditional AI models like this. Without Many of them have had not had any programming background as well to begin with when they started the course. So this is a very, very simple traditional machine learning model. Okay. Now let's look at the steps that we performed, and let's look at what are the typical steps which are typically there in a traditional machine learning or traditional artificial intelligence model. And then we will go into the generative AI, the new kid in the block. Okay. Let me close this. But the link it created, you can actually just put it into any browser, and then you can open it, and then that model is ready for you, right? And it also has a app I mean, it can also be opened into your mobile app as well, and looks like a mobile app. See, it looks like this on mobile, and then you can easily use it. Just point the camera of your phone onto something, and then if it is trained with that, it will do its wonder, right? So it's a very, very easy way to kind of work with it, guys, right? So that is traditional AI. Now let me show you a short video which explains by Google, which explains the process behind most of the traditional machine learning model. Okay. All right. I think there is a Q&A. Can we also open this model on Android mobiles? Yes, Neeraj, why not? You can actually. You can open it just here. This is the link. Now, if you go to the link, if you're attending the Zoom, I mean, attending today's workshop on your phone, you can actually open it, try it right away as well, and you will be able to see it. It's pretty fascinating the way this works. Um, but the point is, it has become extremely easy, guys. Okay, 20 years ago, when the first time I heard about decision sciences or data sciences, that was in 2000 I want to say 2003, 4, just after I graduated, 1 year later after the college. I was in the US, and one of the co-founders of a startup, then a startup, and now it's a big company. It is actually there in Pune as well. But I interacted with the co-founders in Chicago, and he had come to our college, and he'd given us a presentation, and he's spoken about decision sciences. Back in 2004, he had mentioned to us that every pharmaceutical manufacturer in the US knows exactly who's eating how many tablets that they manufacture. So the manufacturing company knows which doctor has recommended how many tablets to whom. That entire data chain is available to the pharmaceutical companies. And I'm talking about 20 years ago, guys. And he had mentioned, and so his startup idea was very simple, that he said that the companies have this vast amount of data, but they are not applying decision sciences, which is, machine learning models or statistical models, essentially to predict what could happen with their data. So his entire startup idea, his company's name was ZS Associates. It's a pretty big company now, and they have office in Pune as well. His idea was that he wanted to help the pharmaceutical company's sales and marketing team predict in which at what time of the year, in which region of the country, how many tablets would be sold. And if they have a great prediction around it, then their entire supply chain, production, marketing efforts, investments towards marketing would be then streamlined, and they would not have waste. So that was the idea back in 20 years ago. And since then, a lot of things have happened in the world of machine learning. Alrighty, let's look at a typical workflow, like a process flow for a traditional artificial intelligence model. Okay, look at this. And this is a video by Google Cloud, not that they're sponsoring.
For many manufacturers, the real cost of production quality can be more than 15%.
Can you all hear the sound of it? Niksha, do you hear the sound of the video?
Yes, sir, we do.
All right.
Percent of sales revenue. Let's follow the quality control transformation and business impact across 3 manufacturing plants as they deploy AI at scale with Google Cloud's visual inspection AI solution. A semiconductor fab in Taiwan is looking to improve their silicon wafer and semiconductor chip yields by detecting defects at the source and reducing waste to meet their increased production targets. Chen, a production yield engineer, is taking the first steps to automate the defect detection with the visual.
So what this is saying is, what this video is saying, I'll just quickly summarize as well. This production engineer wants to reduce the quality defects in the chip, the semiconductor chips that this company produces using this visual AI or it's very similar to what I just showed you. So these are the steps that he's recommending, he's going to follow. He's going to first acquire the images of good and bad right? Now, good can also be defined into multiple categories and bad can also be defined into multiple categories or classes. Like how we had in our machine learning model that I just showed to you, we had only two classes. One was with helmet, without helmet. But this is a production environment. He will have many such classes, many such defect examples. And so he had to first acquire the images. That is what he's going to talk about.
Visual inspection AI solution. He first collects images of the wafers and imports them into a visual inspection AI dataset. He then creates labels for the type of defect.
So the first step was to acquire the images. Now, in the model that I showed to you, I had already acquired the images of with helmet and without helmet. Now here, he's saying, what the video is saying, that once he had acquired the images, then he started to label. For example, I wrote with helmet and I wrote without helmet. There were only two labels that I created. But for him, he's going to create multiple labels. So for example, this particular image that he has create a rectangle around, it says water contamination. That is the label. Not sure if you can see this or not, but water contamination, as you can see over here, right? Now let's see a few more labels that he creates. So that is the step that is happening. Building the model, the first step is to pre-process and label the data.
Defects, such as scratches and discoloration. The simple user interface helps him quickly annotate defect areas on the images. Unlike other solutions, he only needs to annotate.
So now look at the number of labels that he has created. He's created around 12 labels of defect. So for example, here you can't see it. Let me zoom. Here it says edge flow. That means there is some issue with the edge. This image has a reference of issue with the edge. Some more edge flow examples: scratch, spin defect, scratch, water contamination, scratch, and so on and so forth, right? But this is called as labeling, right? Remember, right now what we are doing is we labeled, pre-process and label. The next step that is going to come is to train. It's like, if you had a human production quality in charge and he has just joined this factory as a new person, what you would do to that person is that you would say that these are the samples of the defective chips, and these are defective because of this reason. So this reason meaning the examples of those reasons are given over here, and that's what this guy is doing now. Instead of training a human being, the engineer is training a machine learning model by uploading these sample images of the defects and labeling them properly.
Annotate 10 images for each defect type. That's enough for the visual inspection AI model to start its training.
So it says, even if you have only 10 images of every defect type, let's say 12 defect types and 10 images, so 120 images, very, very small sample size, we say, right? Even with such small sample size, this machine learning model can be trained to predict the defective images later.
After the training is done, Chen reviews the model's.
So now once the training is done, then an evaluation would happen, just like a human being, right? I mean, if a new quality engineer had joined, first the company would train that person, and then maybe an assessment would happen of that person as to how effective the training was or how effectively that person has been trained by putting that individual into the production plant and saying that, hey, you go to the production plant and now start identifying the defective chips. And if this person is able to identify the defective chips 10 out of 10 times, then that means it's 100% accuracy. But if he's able to identify 8 out of 10 times, then that means it's 80% efficiency of the training. And that is what the machine learning model is also doing, that there were images with which it was trained, and now with some more images, it is trying to assess whether it is able to identify the defective units of semiconductor chips or not. And out of the 100 defective, if it is able to identify 90 of it, then the model's accuracy would be 90%. And again, as I said, right, the more training, if the accuracy is not great, then you go back to the previous step and you train with more images, right?
Performance against key metrics like precision and recall.
And that is typically, typically the steps for any machine learning model, traditional machine learning model, which is you acquire the data, you label the data, you train the machine learning model, Then you evaluate the performance of the machine learning model. And then finally, one of the images that I'm not going to show you right now is to deploy it somewhere on the cloud so that people can then start using it on their mobile apps or on a web app, right? Because it has to be usable as well. So there has to be a user interface and so forth. With Vertex AI solution by Google and similar other solution by Microsoft, by AWS, there are many such solution providers. You don't even have to create a comprehensive user interface. They come with the user interface as well, and they come with cloud deployment option as well. And once it is trained, evaluated, and then you just have to deploy and make it production ready, and people can then start using it. And when they start using it, if they find that, okay, the model is not performing so well, then you will have to retrain the model again. This is typically for any machine learning model. This is a traditional, as we call them as traditional AI model. These are the typical steps, guys. If there are any questions, you can ask in the Q&A, and I'll be more than happy to answer from traditional AI. Okay. If there are no questions, then we will go to GenAI, and we'll try and spend some time in understanding some use cases of GenAI, and then understanding how it works, and then we'll open the floor for questions and answers. Any questions on traditional AI model functioning? Anybody? I gave you an example of visual traditional AI model, but similarly, it could be on structured data, for example, credit card fraud data, or the banking transactions data. For example, nowadays, whenever you transact anything using your credit card or debit card, you get some message. But if you have done, I remember once what happened was that I was filling petrol or diesel in my car, and by mistake, instead of spending 2,651 rupees, the guy charged me 2,65,000 some 100 rupees or something like that. And I was surprised, how did it happen, right? I mean, it happened because I entered the wrong pin, then I entered the pin and something happened, and then I was charged that much to my credit card. But my credit card company quickly called me up and alerted that, there seems to be a out of pattern transaction that happened on your credit card, and they reversed it. But the point was, they got to know about it because they had identified that traditionally or historically in my credit card, these are the kind of average transaction that happens, and that is part of their continuous training process. And if there is a outlier, if there is a transaction which doesn't conform based on what it has been trained as, right, non-fraudulent versus fraudulent, then it can quickly trigger an alarm, and then we get messages or we get calls from the banking provider. So that is typically how most of the traditional AI models work. Now, there are two questions that have been asked. More than happy to answer. So Rupam's question is, so traditional AI is more on trial basis on the subject of accuracy, right? Is that the fundamental of AI? Trial basis, well, I mean, it is utilizing some supervised machine learning algorithms, which is any statistical model, if you ask me, is on a trial basis, because statistics is based on sample size, is never based on the population. So there will always be certain amount of margin of error. So you may say that yes, it is certain bit of trial, but it is a science. I mean, if you do that, then there will be accuracy. Omkar's question is, how can we train model UPI fraud similar to credit card? Same, UPI fraud, credit card fraud, or any kind of fraud, right? Uh, you see, in such cases, the fraudulent transactions are typically less than 1%, right? So now, if it is less, so what is the pattern of a non-fraudulent transaction. You can train the model with non-fraudulent transaction, and you can train the model with fraudulent transaction. Or you may say that any model which is trained with non-fraudulent transaction data has certain patterns to it, and the moment it goes beyond that pattern, it will flag it. It is as simple as that. You can try such things. I mean, I will leave you guys with some videos as well that we've created, and you can actually just use your Google Sheet or Excel as well to build such models. I mean, actually, Google Auto ML has a very nice, easy to use interface for non-coders to build such traditional AI model as well. More than happy to help you and direct you. One more question Vijay has asked, how a model gets to know what details he is looking in the whole picture. Vijay, good question, but you maybe you missed it. Actually, if you notice, Vijay, when we were training the model,
For each defect type.
for when this engineer was training the machine learning model, he labeled it as well. If you notice here, he has labeled it. So that's how it is identifying what details to capture as a defect. Do you see this? These are all labeled. For example, it's a scratch. So it's an example of a scratch, Vijay. I mean, I always say that, most of the artificial intelligence world is very, very similar to how you would actually train a human being. To train a human being on whether this product is defective or not as well, you would require some sample, right? Some sample data or sample images. And you would have to mention that, hey, in this image, this is defective, and this is the reason why we're calling it as defective. There is another question on how to use it in healthcare. We'll talk about use cases of this as well, but very, very simple. If you don't even apply too much of brain, you will be able to identify that, in the whole MRI scan of somebody's brain, you just need a higher def cameras, of course, and higher definition, higher resolution images as well. If you are able to identify, because when, let's say, if an MBBS doctor, right? I mean, how are they trained on what to look for as a defect in an MRI neuro MRI scan, right? They're also trained to see some signals, some visual elements which are considered to be bad or good. So if human beings can be trained with those labeled data in MRI, then machine learning models can also be trained, right? It's a very common thing now to utilize machine learning models in healthcare to identify the defects on anybody's X-ray or any kind of body scan. A lot of applications. Okay, I mean, I met one of the startup founders in the US a couple of months ago, Indian guy, but an American Indian guy, and he has created a eye scanner which looking at the eye scans can predict the probability of a person having what is it? It's a diabetes related eye disease. I forgot the full form of it or the word, what it is called. If somebody can help me, but it's a very painful disease, and early detection is critical in care. So normally, an ophthalmologist would require a week to scan and to interpret the data and come back. The model does it in few seconds. Yes, that's right, Niranjana. Glaucoma. Glaucoma is the disease, Niranjana. Thank you. That is the right one. Yes, some anonymous person is asking, is this training model of Google Teachable Machine uses supervised learning approach? Yes, you may say so. Absolutely, because we are putting the labeled data. See, most of the machine learning models, most of the machine learning application models you will see are based on supervised machine learning models. You would see that. Work better than the modern techniques like, okay, very good question that 42 Ram Bhandari has asked. I like your name. Can you share some examples of industries or specific problems where traditional AI models still work better than the modern techniques we hear about? Like, see, I mean, the traditional AI model includes machine learning and deep learning. Actually, believe me, that is what we are now calling traditional AI models. The modern AI models is the Gen AI models. Chat GPT, the kind of models that Chat GPT is using, or Google Gemini is using, or Anthropic's Cloud is using. So they are called as the modern AI models now. The traditional AI models actually include machine learning, which is based on predictive analytics or supervised or unsupervised learning techniques, which are basically statistical techniques that we learned in our school days and college days. So that is what machine learning and deep learning models are based on mostly. Now, if I were to ask you that where these traditional AI models work better, I would say that any industry where there is labeled data available, okay, or structured data available, you would still find better use cases of traditional AI model most of our clients, most of our, I mean, in fact, so we got two businesses, right? We consult companies and we also consult individuals to work in those companies as, data and AI professionals. Believe me, still, while we have Gen AI courses, while we are teaching individuals on Gen AI courses as well as machine learning or traditional data science courses, we still see more placements happening in the traditional data science and machine learning jobs. Okay, the typical data analytics job, the data visualization job, there are still a lot more openings for those than the Gen AI jobs. However, that said, almost all our companies, all our clients are toying with the idea of applying Gen AI into their businesses. And many of them are very successful as well, right? The difference is traditional AI models, like the kind of AI models that we spoke about. Imagine there is a healthcare company. They have humongous amount of data available to them already. Let's say there is a banking and financial company like a bank, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, or any such bank. Now they already have huge amount of structured data available to them. When I say structured data, they know which who's what transaction is what kind of a transaction. Is it a fraudulent transaction? It is not a fraudulent transaction, and everything is available to them in their databases, relational databases as well. So for them to use traditional AI, which requires label data or classified data, it becomes very easy for them to train a traditional AI model. But if it is a modern company, imagine Swiggy, Zomato, or the world, or Instagrams of the world, which works with a lot of unstructured data, right? I mean, you can write any comment on Instagram, or you can upload any image on Instagram. You can, upload a podcast on YouTube or Spotify. And if you want those to be analyzed, right, then and also you want to utilize these unstructured data and maybe create something new. That is when you actually think of using generative AI. So the most of the modern companies, which are typically unregulated, however high growth companies which have a lot of unstructured data, they tend to use more of Gen AI techniques, whereas the typical large enterprises with a lot of history of data available to them still tend to use a lot of traditional AI models. Sorry, long answer, but yeah, I mean, that's what is. All right. Did I miss out? Okay, very good. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot. Very nice. Thank you for all the questions. Let's move on. Um, okay. One other question is how to get into learning traditional AI model, like what's the path one must follow. I will cover that part as well in just a bit. How to create intelligence from intelligence, that is creating which is able to train themselves autonomously and to expand horizons like themselves. Okay, actually, very good question. One of the new technique that many companies are now utilizing is that, let's say, here a human being was required to label the data to identify that this data is bad, this data is good, right? Or this image is bad, this image is good. But imagine you have a system whereby, you have, um, you know, there is a system of collecting the data automatically, which could be a camera feed, which could be, a camera which is taking pictures automatically, and that camera feed is going to a large language model or a large image model, something like a model behind ChatGPT, and it is categorizing that model. I mean, categorizing the images or the video feeds into bad and the good, and then it is being trained to the machine learning model directly from there. So you have an autonomous system whereby the data is getting collected by the cameras and the sensors of the world, and it is getting classified based on by a large language model or a large image model or a large text model. And then the classified data, the labeled data, that is getting fed into a traditional AI model, which is being retrained, evaluated by AI itself, and then being used. I mean, so that is the kind of autonomous traditional AI model. I mean, many of them are getting created. Accuracy of them is still being identified. And but all of this also requires a lot of cost because the infrastructure becomes very costly as well. The machine learning compute engines and the cloud infrastructure and all of that becomes quite cost prohibitive as well a lot of times. That is the reason why some of the companies, except for the big tech companies which have deep pockets, many companies still want to have a hybrid model, where human beings are deeply involved as well. And it's also a trust issue. Most of our clients do not trust um, an autonomous system completely designed by some engineer. A CEO would have a very, very bad night's sleep if the model is doing everything without explaining what it is. So there is also a one very interesting thing in the world of traditional, I mean, in the world of AI, which is called as explainable AI. Companies want to understand why AI is recommending what it is recommending, and that should be very, very clear to them. Otherwise, they become slightly jittery. All right, guys, thanks a lot for all the questions. We'll still have time for the question. And let me go to the GenAI demo as well. And then we'll also try and spend some time on GenAI, and I'll take your questions again. And then we'll go to the career-oriented questions that you guys have already answered. Now, for GenAI, what I'm going to do is that I have taken the liberty of utilizing one of my own platforms, one of my startups that I'm deeply involved with. I'm one of the co-founders, time2justice.ai. Let me show you what we will do here. Now, this particular platform we created for enterprises, medium-sized, large, small, medium-sized, large enterprises, to help them become faster with their legal compliance HR work, right? In a typical company, even if that company has just 50 employees and few crores of revenue, they have to comply with various laws of the land, right? Various regulations of the land. So now for that, they have to hire a lot of experts, legal experts, tax experts, and so on and so forth. So we kept those guys in mind because, for the last 20 years of me running businesses as well, or last 18 years of me running businesses as well, I have also personally been fed up of interacting with such costly resources or experts, so-called experts. So we thought, can we do something like this that we can actually help companies like ours, like us as well, with the legal and the tax compliance help. So that's how we decided to design. I mean, with one of my co-founders who's a CA and I am Indore grad. We created this platform, time2justice.ai. You can, I'll give you some free links. You can try it. One of the features, although it has many features, interesting feature is AI background check as well. But I'm going to show you one very interesting feature called as reply on document. Now, what reply on document does is that, let's say, unfortunately, somebody has an FIR, filed an FIR, has an FIR filed to that person. And now that person wants to create a quick reply on that FIR. So let's say I'm going to upload this FIR PDF document because whenever there is an FIR filed against you, then you will get a document, you will get a copy of that FIR. That is your right. And now I'm going to just ask this guy to, create a bail application against this FIR. Even if I don't write it, will do it. If I have a template of this bail application, I can use it from my template as well. And I could have verbally chatted with this thing as well to do it, but I've typed it. And then I'm just going to click on generate reply. Now, the interesting thing is that it's going to take that document, understand. So the entire platform, we have trained it as expert lawyers of India. So what we did was that we identified some 50 expert lawyers of different categories in India. And we looked into their cases, some 500 cases of every lawyer. So we had thousands of cases, and then we looked into how they like to reply on different types of case documents, and then we trained the AI model to behave like experts, right? And now it has created a very quick bail application based on what it saw in the FIR, right? Definitely. So we'll talk about the steps as well. All right. So this is an example of generative AI. Another example, if you notice here, is a very interesting feature that we have called as AI background check. Let's say, okay, you guys are young, so maybe I can take a younger example. But if it was a company, I say that if the company is onboarding a new employee and wants to do a instant background check, normally the companies have to wait for couple of weeks to a month as well to get some kind of background information check done on an employee. But here, what we have is using AI and some of the data that we pull from government services, we can do instant background check. Interestingly, we did not anticipate, but there are a lot of interest from these matrimonial sites and people who are getting married, right? Because they get biodatas and they want to verify whether that biodata has genuine information or not. So this utilizes a person's background. For example, let's say one of my friends here, I just write his first name, last name, and the mobile number. And the best part is that with just this much of information, using AI and using some of the information that we get from the government databases, it will pull up, it will build an AI based background, complete background on that individual. And it just takes like 30 seconds to do it. Now, these are some of the examples of Gen AI, because Gen AI can generate new things based on the patterns and the signals and the connection that it has seen on the data, right? So it creates this, and you can try it. I don't want to spend so much time, but you can see that it has other information created, financial and legal and whatnot, and legal cases, and everything is here, right? So this becomes an example of Gen AI. Now, questions, guys. What questions do you
Hello,
have on Gen AI? Yeah, sure. Yes.
Pratik sir. I will have
Hmm.
to pause you for a second.
Sure.
There are a few questions that the students want to ask, and there are a few questions that we would like you to ask.
Sure.
So if we could go directly to the questions round now.
Sure. Absolutely. That is what I
Yeah.
wanted to go towards.
You could initially start by answering the questions in short of the ones that have been put up in the Q&A box, and then I
In the
will
Q&A
proceed to
box, I
my.
think I addressed all the questions. Nishka, there is only one
Okay.
question which is there, which is what steps should we take to build a career in AI, right? I think that is one question that is there in the Q&A box, which I will answer right now. And
Yes, sir. And I
basically,
think
AI is
there is another question. Yes, sir, sure. Please go ahead.
about basically AI is about modeling and the computational problems and open sources available for developing, right? These are the two questions which are still to be answered, right? Is there any other question that I
Yes,
missed
sir.
out?
Yes. That's the only two that I am seeing, sir.
Okay, sure.
Answer
What
question.
steps should we take to build a career in AI? Now, there are two answers I'm going to give to this particular question. One answer is for people who are more research driven, and one answer is for the people who are non-research driven, right? If you are research driven and you are one of those guys who like to solve problems which have not been solved, then you have to go deeper into learning mathematics very, very well. Without learning mathematics, concepts like linear algebra, calculus, without learning some of those maths concepts, probability, and so forth, you will find it difficult to solve
Can you?
the problems which have not been solved yet. Okay, in the world of AI and machine learning. But let's take the example of the second use case. Let's say you are one of those person who is more application oriented, who wants to solve industry-wide commercial problems with the AI tools which are already created by several companies, and there are many which have been created by several companies. If you are such a person, then I would say that you have to have a very strong understanding of the AI landscape, the traditional AI landscape, the generative AI landscape. You have to have a very strong landscape understanding, which basically means what are the tools which are already available, right? For example, I showed you a visual AI tool, I showed you a Gen AI tool. What kind of tools are already available, and utilize those tools to then identify what kind of business problem areas that you want to solve. I'll give you some example of that. Um, One example of that could be that you are a person um, who wants to solve a problem of a doctor, that a doctor ends up spending a lot of time writing prescriptions, right? So you could build a very small GenAI tool which will do the transcription. That means record every verbal conversation that is happening between the doctor and the patient, with of course all the data integrity and data security and whatnot, and have a open AI, I mean, have a large language model connected to your app, connected to that app, which can understand the data that is captured verbally, and then can create the prescription for the doctor, and the doctor ends up just vetting or validating that prescription. So if you want to, if you have a more application oriented orientation, you can utilize the tools which are available. For that also, I would recommend you to at least know one coding language well. It could be JavaScript, it could be Python. I would prefer Python if you ask me. It's very, very easy to learn for most of the people, especially the kind of things that you want to build based on existing tools. Secondly, I would say that in that, maybe work with a UI UX designer to create a good application kind of an environment. So that these are the two areas that I would strongly say. First step first step in both the areas should be that you must read a lot about what is happening in the world of AI, subscribe to a few blogs, subscribe to a few channels. You must read and get acquainted. That is the first and the foremost thing. And then you decide whether you're more research oriented, whether you're more application oriented. Research oriented, focus on maths, focus on statistics, and focus on learning one of the programming languages very well, for example, Python. If you're application oriented, start with learning some bit of Python, still have to learn about what tools which are available in the world of AI, and start it, guys. Do not wait for long, right? I mean, in in Ivy Pro School, in our EdTech platform, I always say that start doing things quickly, right? I mean, if you even if you're learning a little bit of it, start applying it, and it doesn't take too much time to start applying and solving problems. What I'll do is that through Nishka, I will send you a few videos. You can easily follow them and start doing a few things by yourself.
Sir, what drives your decision to take up a job or pursue further education after graduation?
Whether to do a job or not to do a job, is that the question?
So, whether after graduating, whether to do a job or directly go to pursue higher education is the question.
Good question. I mean, so I'll give you two examples. Let's say if you are unsure of what you really want to do, and you want to still explore some of the areas, I would say that take up one or spend 1 year and take up one or two internships or one or two projects here and there, and try and see if it interests you if you're unsure. But if you're very, very sure of an area, for example, if you're sure that you want to become a AI practitioner, then I would say that, I'm assuming that if somebody is doing bachelor's in engineering, I would say that do a master's right away, and there is no harm in it. Now, let's say if you end up getting a great job while you are in bachelor's in the world of AI or machine learning, and that is the area that you want to focus on, then I would say that spend 2 years and then do a master's. But in either way, you must do one master's program if your focus is AI or machine learning. That adds a lot of value to your profile.
Okay, sir. So when you look at the job, okay,
Uh,
when you look at a job, would you look at the pay, the location, the job profile, or the brand? What would you look at?
I if I'm a young person, I would look at the learning opportunity. That means the job profile. I have always believed that if the job profile is good, right, you will end up learning quite a bit. And in your early career or early professional career, it is very, very important that, more than the money, more than anything else, go with a job that you feel will give you more learning. That is what I had also taken. I had 4 offers when I was graduating from my master's. And I remember I took up a consulting company's job offer just because I thought, it would give me problem solving experience with multiple domains. That is the reason. I mean, learning is the most important criteria there, which basically means job profile.
Got it, sir. Got it, got it. Also, so since you said talked about learning, what is the mandatory or desirable skill, technical or non-technical, according to you? Skill or say certifications that every aspiring graduate should possess, no matter what domain they are coming out of or
AI,
what domain they're AI.
artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, guys, believe me, it's not because I spend so much time in this area, but I have been fortunate enough to work with healthcare companies, manufacturing companies, finance companies, retail companies. Right now, we are working with India's largest newspaper, largest tobacco manufacturer, largest steel manufacturer. We are working with Europe's largest retailer. Everybody focus is on artificial intelligence. Okay, so if there is any young person, right? If he, so the best combination is that, let's say you have adopted one domain, for example, retail or healthcare or finance, you have adopted one domain, and you also have a vocational knowledge of artificial intelligence. That is the killing, combination. If I were to say, see, I was a computer engineer. For me to learn about business, it took me some time. I remember my accounting, my in my master's, I had accounting as one accounting 101. I mean, it was difficult to learn that because coming from an engineering background. But believe me, once I learned it, it was, now I read more financial news than anything else. But finance, I mean, one domain, one business domain, and AI. That is the best combination that I would say, irrespective of who you are, what domain you work with.
Got you, sir. Got you. So, sir, I have two more questions left, but I'll say one, I'll ask one, and then we'll go to the Q&A. In
Sure.
the end, I'll ask one last question, and then we'll wrap up the session. Okay. So, sir, one advice you would give to your 20-year-old self.
One advice, 20 year, no, I will say 18 years old, because that's when I was making a decision whether to take a job right out of, MIT, Pune. In our times, we used to get jobs of 5,000 to 8,000 rupees. Okay. Our university topper got 8,000 rupees with General Electric. Okay. So the decision was much simpler back then. And Microsoft had come to campus, they offered 10,000 rupees. So I was like, okay, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I'm not saying, money and all of that, but, I mean, what I thought was that at that point of time, if somebody had told me that, Pratik, you know what, don't worry about 8,000 rupees, don't worry about 10,000 rupees, go ahead and do a Microsoft job or go ahead and do a GE job for 2 years. And I was very sure that I wanted to do something in the tech side. Okay, that I was very sure since I decided to do computer engineering back in 1997, 1998. If somebody had mentioned, I mean, somebody had told me that, Pratik, do not worry about money at that point of time. If you happen to get a job with a job profile which is good enough, then just go ahead with it, right? And don't worry about a US master's. You can always do it later. So I would have, I mean, if I had done that, then in my master's probably I would have more perspective, because in the US most of the folks that you would see who are doing masters would have a couple of years of experience, and then when they bring in their perspective into projects, into cases, their perspective is much more mature, I may say, than a person like how I was, just out of college to a master's program. So that is one small advice that I would give to my 18-year-old self. And also I would give one more advice to 18-year-old self is enjoy while being sincere and consistent towards your effort. I mean, I did enjoy my master's and I had a great time. But I was disciplined as well, I would say, and I was consistent in my master. I was more consistent in my master's than probably in my engineering. In engineering, we used to study only in the last 45 days. But in my master's, we used to study almost every week. So that is the only advice that I would say. And if you're still in engineering, by the way, one more advice I would give you: take 30 minutes out daily, guys, to to just open the books and do some revision. That's something that I don't know why in India we don't encourage, and in the US the system was such that we had to do it, and that reduced the pressure so much, and that increased the so much of affection towards study, that I can't tell you. That 30 to 45 minutes daily routine, I can tell you is groundbreaking consistency that can bring to your academic performance.
Great, sir. I think everyone's taking notes. We'll
And take notes
now
in the class, guys.
take you
Okay,
through
take notes in the class.
Definitely, sir. I'm hoping everybody does.
Yeah.
So we'll look at the Q&As.
Alrighty,
You
Q&A. I had, let's see. Are there any startups ideas with AI based on motive of creating jobs with AI? Yeah, there are many. I mean, one of the startup ideas that startup ideas what we have already implemented is, if I'm assuming your question is about whether it can create jobs or not. One of the ideas that we have worked with is, so there are a lot of people in India, right? I mean, who have essentially studied a lot of things, but their employability is a question. So we created an app. I mean, we created a platform which does the automatic assessment, completely AI based assessment, all the way to their interview, and gives them a very individualistic course plan or a lesson plan on what they should be learning in order to be employed in the job description that they have uploaded. So it's like they upload a job description and then AI does everything, their entire diagnostic, and then gives them a learning skill plan, which gives them a step-by-step process as to what should they learn in order to achieve that job description's need. Now, why this is a groundbreaking idea, I believe, because there are so many people in India, so many young people in India who have gone to colleges, going to colleges, graduating, but they're not getting the jobs. And there are so many companies in India which are willing to hire, but they are not getting the rightly trained graduates. So, very simple idea, but there are many such. You guys are young guys. You guys have more time to read and see the young generation. Zen Alpha, Zen Beta, whatever you guys now call it. So, see, I mean, there are so many ideas that would come. You just have to keep your eyes and mind open. One more question that you give many application where AI was applied in many fields. For someone who's not interested in going to core software industry, what's I mean, you do not have to go to software industry. I mean, most of our clients are non-software, non-techies. Most of our clients come from traditional industries, most of them. And those are the best areas to apply AI, guys. Best areas. I'll give you another example. One of our FMCG client, ITC, I'm sure you guys know this. They apply AI to monitor their truck movement within their factory premises to see where is the longest lead time for that truck to move from one station to another, right? So that they can optimize their performance. Absolutely. Many areas. In non-core tech software industry, someone wants to get into space field. Space field, space research. I mean, space sounds very researchy to me. I'm not from space. I like to see India fires a rocket and lands on moon. Of course, I'm proud of that, but probably not the right person to ask to answer this question. But I'll just take a take a shot at it. Maybe space would be more research oriented than anything else because it's rocket science ultimately, is what I would say. But I mean, see, I mean, read some papers, read some research papers, see what's going on in the world of space and aeronautics. So that could probably give, but I'm not the best person to answer that question about space research. Sorry about that. Let me see if I missed out on any question.
I think we concluded them, sir.
Yeah, okay.
So, sir, I think
One
we will
last thing
have.
that I would just
Yeah.
do,
Yes,
because
sir.
if people are interested, and I had sorry, yeah, if people are interested, they can just scan this, and they will, we will share some set of free AI tools, that most of the AI tools that I used, or some of the tools that they can easily use and utilize after the session as well, without any coding background. Yeah, Nishka. Yes, please, Nishka, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Great. Okay, sir. So, as we wrap up this session, what's a memory from MIT-WPU campus that you still cherish?
Other than the fact that I had my first girlfriend there, but I, um, I mean, we had a lot of fun. I mean, actually, I learned computer programming there for the first time. And I remember the first time I entered in the classroom, I saw young people sitting there, and I thought, I mean, there are so many young people, so many uh, young people are there just like me, and there'll be a lot of competition and all. Of course, there was competition, but we really had a great time. I mean, and engineering days were the best days, I would say. We partied, we studied as well, and some of the teachers, I mean, Vij ma'am is still there. She also taught us back then. I remember some of the some of the very strong memories that I remember is getting up in the morning to go to that 8:15 a.m. class, right? And that I tell you, that is such an important discipline. If whether you are taking bath or not, doesn't matter. Try to reach the class on time. That I tell you, in the long run in your life, whatever career that you end up adopting, people who are successful, they are normally very sincere, and they are normally very disciplined into such small things. And I think that is something that I would remember. Yeah.
Definitely, sir. Amazing. It's really great to listen to all of this. Pratik sir, I must say I have no knowledge of AI, but I have a different perspective on it after today's session. It has been a truly enlightening session. Thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom with us today. I'm sure our students have learned a lot. There were faculties joining in, there were staff that had joined into the session. And I think every one of us will carry these insights forward in our journeys. To all our attendees, thank you for joining us in this masterclass. And we're soon going to have our next masterclass. It will be a panel discussion on 14th of December. Until then, stay curious and keep learning is all I'll say.
And yeah, and
Thank you
if
so much, sir.
anybody wants to be connected with me, guys, just Google my name, Pratik Ivy. You will find easily my name. And I saw that a lot of people were still having some questions. And just search Pratik Ivy. You'll find me on the LinkedIn profile. I mean, on LinkedIn, just give me a ping on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions which are still pending. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Nishka, for coordinating, and thanks
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thanks the faculty team as well. I do not
Thank you, sir.
know who all are there, but thank you for inviting me. Thank you, everybody.
Definitely. Thank you so much, sir.